When the truck stopped, the soldiers waited, making small talk and wisecracks in the dim. The mood was relaxed. One soldier called out, "Oh, please, Sergeant, please can we meet Jesus?" The other soldiers burst into laughter, and James, while finding it amusing, was simultaneously frustrated by the complete ignorance the soldiers had for where they were. The sergeant was right after all. If he hadn't been deployed here, this is exactly the type of place he would have visited on leave, probably alone with his camera and his own personal sense of wonder. A firm slap sounded on the side of the truck, and the sergeant's voice came gruff and tired from outside.
"Okay, everybody off."
One by one the troops jumped down from the truck, now geared up with helmets on and rifles in hand. When everyone was circled and accounted for, the sergeant began handing out duties, peering closely at what looked like a hand-drawn map.
"Okay, the compound is about 200 meters north to south. We're set up all over, so Bell, take your guys, get the food supplies to the kitchen area. That's located at the east side of the compound,"
he said, now pointing in the general direction of a selection of tents.
"Peters, take yours and get the fuel supplies and vehicle sundries to the depot. That's back towards the entrance. Johnson, weapons and ammo. There's a tunnel system at the north end of the compound."
The sergeant paused to get his bearings and then pointed in the general direction of north.
"There's a mortar-safe storage location there. Ask the sentry. Make sure it's all secure."
Looking back up, he finally pointed in an easterly direction.
"And personal kit over there. There should be a tent. When you're all done, the chef has stayed up to serve you a special treat of cold leftovers."
A half-hearted, sarcastic cheer came from the troops.
"So meet back there in 30 minutes. Carry on."
The men wearily started organising themselves and peeling off to perform their duties, eventually leaving just the sergeant and James. The Lance Corporal was already distracted, peering over the sergeant's shoulder, looking at an interesting stone plinth behind him.
"And you, Attridge, the convoy rolls out tomorrow, 1100 hours. Report to Lieutenant Cole. He has your assignment."
"Know what I'll be driving, Sarge?" asked the soldier.
"I do not, and I do not care, Attridge," the sergeant began coldly. "Now the lieutenant wants you properly rested. To me that means I have you until the early hours, and I'm informed we're short of a lookout. So I want you to grab some chow and get yourself on top of that tower over there."
The sergeant pointed to a scaffolding structure that was erected in the centre of the compound.
"Relieve whoever's there, find out what the procedure is, and someone will be up to relieve you in 3 or 4 hours. Got it?"
Yes, Sergeant."
"Good. Enjoy your road trip tomorrow, Attridge,"
finished the man dismissively, and without waiting for a reply, turned and walked off to continue his duties. At a shade past 2300 hours, Lance Corporal Attridge found himself sitting in a camping chair on top of a makeshift scaffolding lookout. For company, he had a radio, a water bottle, a set of night-equipped binoculars, and sat upon the sandbags in front of him was an L7A2 general-purpose machine gun. The previous occupant had left him with the general communication protocol, and he was now settled in, enjoying a late evening of dull perimeter watching. "Delta lookout, report," came a chirp over the radio. James jumped a little, having drifted off into a partial daydream, staring at the moonlit desert beyond. Even though there was no immediate threat, he chastised himself for doing so. Grabbing the radio, he replied, "Delta, all clear," then put the radio down again. It was about half an hour later that the soldier found himself looking again at a tree 20 meters or so to the west. It was a large tree, with big thick limbs, growing inside the compound in a little cluster of foliage. Although this area was not lit, the moon provided enough brightness to show the tree was nestled between 2 ancient columns. It wasn't so much that the tree was odd, but more that it was in his way, and obstructing a large portion of his perimeter view to the west. Still, why it had grown so successfully here was a curiosity. Outside the compound, the trees were slender and sinewy, appearing parched, as if they were struggling to hydrate themselves in this semi-arid climate. This one was robust and healthy, except for very sparse branches on its northern side. Later, when the call of his bladder changed from a dull ache to a near-on emergency, James decided to make the call to leave his position. He picked up the radio. "Delta, requesting permission to siphon the python?" He grinned to himself as he awaited the response. "Delta, no problem," came the crackled reply. "Check in when the